Generals, officers, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to be with you again here. And immediately I beg your pardon for my pure French accent. Today, after 6 years as the head of the French cyber defense, as the first ComCyber, and then 2 years as General Director of the Digital Information and Data for the French Ministry of Defense, I can measure the progress we have made in your French-Estonian cooperation, notably within the Center of Excellence. That's also the reason why I am honored to contribute to this conference. Estonia is for us the most advanced country in Europe in terms of digital technology. Once again, I would like to acknowledge the work done by Estonia during its time as President of the European Union and its influence on international forums. Today, I can only observe that the digital society is on the move. Observe that Estonia is Europe's laboratory in these new digital societies, and that the data revolution is preparing us for it. Consequently, we must foresee the structure of those societies and erect security and confidence as component of its DNA. Data is a cornerstone of all your challenge, whether we are talking about cyber, big data, cloud, or artificial intelligence. In this field, Estonia is a pioneer. For instance, X-Road is mentioned as an example in France by all your authorities, notably by the Secretary of State for Digital Technology. The 2010s were intelligence and espionage times. Then the arrival of the cases such as Stuxnet or Coffeeker showed us that sabotage attacks were accessible either in a targeted or a general way. In 2014, we have faced Daesh propaganda. We destabilized us and fragmented our societies, whether in Europe or elsewhere, and we waged a real war through the use of the French cyber forces against this propaganda. Today, I am happy to say that the French language propaganda has declined considerably, and that the armed forces that led this fight were able to hand over to the internal security forces, at least for French language propaganda. We also saw the emergence of alleged interferences in elections attributed to the Russians. Then the issue of fake news became one of the declaration themes of your great leaders. We are therefore in a new era of conflicts that can no longer be ignored. France, like many other states, have fully taken it into account. In this view, a military capacity has been created. It will have 3,000 experts today, and 4,500 by 2022. In comparison, the experts were less than 300 in 2011. At the head of those forces, we have an operational command, the ComCyber, built step by step since 2011. It has a large scale of experts and many other operations on which they are engaged, whether in support of intervention in the Sahel, Mali, or in the Levant, Syria, and Syria, or for the protection or defense of own networks and against propaganda. I will tend to say that cyber, which has been yet something extremely important until 2020, 2015 and 16, is taking on a new dimension. Until 2015 in France, the focus was on attacks on information systems that were inside our structures. I think that we must look forward to the challenge of data security and data trust. We are facing two new revolutions, whose beginnings are known, and which took off with the explosion of technology. Thus, we cannot talk about hosting without talking about cloud, not about data processing without talking about artificial intelligence. There are the challenges that are emerging. So I think it is important here in Tallinn, at the CyCon, to look at the road traveled and the one that remains to be traveled. This journey particularly implies to review the notion of sovereignty. And therefore, we can see alongside sovereign states that digital have erased all your borders. We have seen the arrival of major players who are almost at the same level of power as states. Unsurprisingly, they are the GAFAMs, with whom we share common value. However, we cannot ignore the emergence of other major players, notably Chinese players with whom we do not share the same culture or vision of mankind, or even the same notion of democracy. Thus, as far as the GAFAM is concerned, there is a certain shared vision of progress. In the middle is Europe, which has its own culture. It is interesting to note that this is not the first time in history that transnational corporations which have experienced strong growth through trade have threatened the power of states. As so, the analogy because the digital world and the maritime world seems to me to speak for itself. Trade starts with the cargo transported. Nowadays, cargo is the data. At the 18th century, the big shipping companies like the East India Company, the French one, but essentially the British one, were almost as powerful as kingdom. But this phenomenon was then regulated. By analogy, I think we are at this stage. States and just large companies must work together to get to know each other better and understand their mutual expectation. Also, we can consider that data have become a sovereign common good, shared by all citizens and by their respective nation. Thus, nations shall protect data and create new means to do so. Data protection, not limited to the General Data Protection Regulation, should be constructed by laws, taxes, cryptographic means, and by the so-called digital borders. In a matter of fact, digital borders are the strengths of partners' relationship in data and algorithm matters. They will find their roots in an amended social contract when the main parties are states, web players, and citizens. Then the implication is in terms of strategic autonomy that drive cyber and digital is above all trust. Trust is by two main elements. Is the one and security. It is measurable. Today, we can say that the security of GAFAM is as well ensured as that of many states. Indeed, they own data centers. They have transatlantic links. They have their own cryptology, and they own their servers. In conclusion, they own sovereignty worthy of a state over a part of the digital space. The second element to be taken in consideration is a community of destiny between the partners. Do we have trusted partners? This is going beyond security aspect. Today, between Europe or France and Microsoft, Amazon or Google, the question is, how can these companies be trusted partners? Are they concerned about your strategic autonomy? Are they concerned about preserving the personal data of all the citizens? Do they distinguish between a citizen and a customer. This is a fundamental distinction because we are in a democracy, where we shall not only find customers, but above all find citizens whose dignity must be respected. Just questions are at stake and will reflect on the relationship between states and the major web players, at least for those who share transatlantic values shared for a very long time with your American friends. GAFAM and EU must they learn to work together, to work better together, to work together and to respect citizen personal data and dignity. The first duty of a sovereign state is to defend its territory and thereby defend its sovereignty. Nowadays, states shall include as one of their first duties the defense of citizens' data in extension of citizens' defense. Data protection must therefore be put in the forefront by all states and be the subject of in-depth work by politicians in order to move away from a purely commercial approach. If we are already experiencing difficulty in cooperation between Europeans and Americans GAFAM, it is important to be fully aware of the tsunami represented by the arrival of new major players in this field, namely the Chinese, with whom we share very few common values, in particular, the way in which citizens are viewed. We must therefore act on this new challenge, but above all, accelerate your cooperation. Finally, in order to come back to a military area that directly concerns us within a military coalition, one of the imperatives is mutual and reciprocal trust towards each other. This trust implies that the decision is not biased. To do so, it is necessary to reassure your partners of the origin of data and the way in which the algorithm, which can be binding of the members of a coalition, have been developed and trained. It is therefore extremely important regarding artificial intelligence and big data, beyond hosting and storing data, towards foresight and knowledge of the data producer. It's equally important to be able to ensure that these data are reliable, that they have not been biased, and that they are not provided to serve the strategic interests of only one of the partners in the coalition. Moreover, when these data are processed by algorithms, it is also crucial to know who is doing it and what data it has been trained with. An algorithm trained with biased data will inevitably lead to biased decisions. To conclude, the way we process our data, our way of answering trust within military coalition, we should be one of the main areas of works for the Tallinn Center of Excellence in the future, which brings together all the nations interested in this field. This work, revolving about the data and its process, may ensure the best transition from system cybersecurity to a trusted data revolution. Thank you for your attention.